Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 testing. It's actually been quite a while since I put out a testing video. I'm letting these guys duke it out in real time as I kind of do this intro because they're going to be fighting for quite a while. It was inspired by Heir of Carthage's Vampire Counts patch analysis video that he put out last night. Been a long time subscriber of his. I do watch many of his videos, and was watching that one just to see his thoughts on the patch and offer my own in his comments as well. And kind of inspired me to have a look and test the Blood Dragon Lord to see how he does against various combat lords here. And so I put together a list of who I thought were some of the best combat characters in the game. We're going to test them against the Blood Dragon on the Dragon to see how he does. Archaon up here first has been doing quite well for himself. I apologize I didn't get you guys the unit cards while everything was popping off, but he's got Slayer of Kings, Undeath Resurgence, Slayer of Kings Standard Die, Foe Seeker, Flaming Sword Ruin, Cascading Firecloak, and Crown of Domination. So lots of extra melee defense and armor piercing damage. Also gets extra flaming damage with the Kindle Flame. Very good value there. You can see he's done a ton of damage to the Blood Dragon Lord. Has amazing combat stats, so he's doing quite well. Blood Dragon, what makes him tick and what makes him so dangerous is he also has a number of extremely powerful abilities that stacked on top of each other means that he can counter a lot of what you can bring to the table. He's got plenty of healing with the Hunger and Invocation of Nehek. He's also got Pestilential Breath, of course, with the Dragon Breath. Honor or Death gives himself damage resistance and leadership in melee, makes him that much tankier. He's got Dance Macabre, of course, and Invocation of Nehek, being the spells from the lore of vampires, one giving melee attack, the other more healing. He's got extra armor piercing and weapon damage from the Sword of Anti-Heroes. The Helm of Discord gives an opponent melee stat debuff the standard amount. Undeath Resurgent we already saw, and yeah, armor piercing and the armor sundering and everything just, it's all stacked on top of each other. It makes him extremely hard to kill, number one. You can see Archaon's been able to do a ton of damage to him, but just not enough in the tank at the end of the day to finish off the Blood Dragon here. And he's going to go ahead and, yeah, win that one. So Archaon setting the bar quite high, honestly, doing pretty well there, but at the end of the day getting taken out. The Blood Dragon in his form that I'm testing him here is about 3,200 points. So I'm going to try to make the characters I bring up against them relatively equal in cost. If that means bringing a caster, for example, if they don't have magic themselves, I'll do that. Lokir up on his dragon is about probably about the same price, honestly. I'd have to double check, maybe a little bit cheaper, like a couple hundred points cheaper, but right around that 3K mark. And yeah, Lokir with all of his stuff has pretty decent stats. He counters the Helm of Discord with his Dreaded Duelist, but I think the Helm of Discord lasts a bit longer. We'll see. He does have the self-healing and the extra melee defense from the armor, but just the weapon strength there, almost 800 total weapon strength from the Blood Dragon. The majority of that is going to be armor piercing. Just a ridiculous amount of damage going down on Lokir, and his own self-healing just doesn't have the pace to keep up with the Hunger and the Invocation. Plus, he's not putting out as much damage, so yeah, Lokir's just going to get trashed here by the Blood Dragon. No surprise there. This is what I expected to happen to most characters I put up against the Blood Dragon, so unfortunately no matched combat animations between the two dragons, it looks like, but yeah, they're gonna go at it, and Lokir's definitely gonna lose that one. So sad Lokir runs away, and we're gonna move on to the next test. Up next, we've got a personal favorite of mine, Karl Franz, Emperor of Mankind. Comes out to about 2,500 points in this kit. He's up on Deathclaw with both items. He's dual wielding, you know, Galmaraz and the Reichland Runefang. He's also got Stand Your Ground, Foe Seeker, Hold the Line, which is actually pretty decent on him now. Gives him extra melee defense. You can see the Helm of Discord, again, counters exactly the buffs that he gets. So on top of everything, he's still got his bonus versus large and massive weapon strength with pretty good combat stats. He's actually putting a pretty good bead on the Blood Dragon right now. So because he's quite a bit undercosted, like 700 points undercosted, I did bring a Jade Wizard in a typical loadout. You'd almost always bring this guy in this exact loadout if you're going to bring Karl Franz. So went ahead and popped a regrowth on him just to make sure he stays healed up. and he's going to go at it here. So we'll fast forward through this one slightly, just because we do have quite a few characters to get through, and Franz is actually doing pretty good. Once all the buffs are worn off, he is comparable. You know, the Blood Dragon only has 44 melee defense, and the 51 attack of Karl Franz, even with the Cloud of Flies, you know, debuffing him, still enough to get some pretty consistent hits there, and the Blood Dragon suffering pretty badly here. Let's see if the healing brings it back. Of course, I do have a couple of pocket Earthbloods here, but we'll see. It's going to be very, very close. At this point, Karl Franz's leadership does give out. Unfortunately, the Blood Dragon can't quite finish him off, so I'm like, okay, just go ahead and try and chase him off. If I can throw another Earthblood on him and get him to come back, I will. So we go ahead and do just that. Karl Franz is going to go ahead and rally his leadership here. Blood Dragon not quite fast enough to chase him all the way off, even with the Dance Macabre and everything. And now we're going to get one last little pitched engagement here. Reichland and Fang Dalmaraz off cooldown at this point, so I can pop both of those. And Blood Dragon's at his healing cap, and Franz is actually going to bring this back. So, you know, I didn't quite count all the spells that the Blood Dragon had used there, but 2 Earthbloods and 1 Regrowth, and Karl Franz up to his healing cap is able to just barely squeak that out. So a little bit of RNG there. You run that test a number of times again, and it might have a different result, slightly different result, but it looks like Karl Franz is one of the few who can really go toe-to-toe with the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. It doesn't personally surprise me too much. His charge bonus is pretty ridiculous on the Griffin, so when that's active, he can get some really nasty hits. Plus, again, he has that standard combat stat buff line for himself between the Reichland Runefang and Stand Your Ground, so he can counter the Helm of Discord, plus the bonus versus large and massive weapon strength really means that he can definitely go toe-to-toe, and anybody who's watched my channel for a decent amount of time knows that he's one of the best combat characters in the game right now, so that personally didn't surprise me too much. I figured he would have one of the better chances, but certainly nice to see as an Empire fan myself that he's able to do well there. Next up, Prince on a Star Dragon. Just wanted to test this purely from a cost analysis standpoint. This guy's like 3,100 points, which is just barely off the Blood Dragon here. Of course, the Blood Dragon being a caster and having healing, we can pretty much expect how this is going to go. I just wanted to see really how one-sided it was. If you took out a kitted out Prince, personally I would probably always cut most of these. I mean, maybe you take these two in this specific situation and Deadly Onslaught. The Bane Shield, I don't know if that's going to be super useful here. The extra armor really isn't going to matter too much. But you can see the Prince able to do some pretty good damage at first. And again, no matched combat animations, unfortunately. A little bit of awkwardness going on here as these guys just kind of peck at each other. But yeah, Prince is able to do some pretty solid damage, but again, just the healing and a few misses there means that the Blood Dragon Lord is able to keep going. He's still got the Sword of Anti-Heroes up. I mean, granted, looks like the Blade of Bel Caradhras just barely dropping off there, but again, the healing making a huge difference here. And this is one of the issues with the Prince, is he's super, super expensive, so this one's pretty much decided. We'll fast forward through the end as the Prince is going to go ahead and flee the field here. How about the other High Elf character, though? The one who's recently been buffed. I believe it's this one, yep. Good old Tyrion. So Tyrion, like Archaon in this last patch, got majority AP, so he's quite a bit better now. He has extremely good combat stats, plus, again, that standard melee attack and defense buff for himself in Feint and Riposte. You can even stack that on top of extra melee defense with Stand Your Ground. Also has self-healing with the Heart of Averlorn. Because he's, about 2,500, same as Franz, I went ahead and brought a High Mage here just to support him. You know, in a realistic situation against the Vampire Counts, I would definitely bring a High Mage for the air control. I probably would have had a few Bolt Throwers, maybe not, or something to try and support. Maybe throw a Tempest on the Blood Dragon and then hit him with some missiles, but Tyrion comes in. Tyrion's able to do really, really well here in the initial phase, actually. Again, I tried to dodge the charge and then countercharge on the ground like I did with Archaon, because, again, that's what I would do with one of these guys in an actual battlefield situation. Try and draw the dragon out into the open, dodge their charge, and then countercharge back around. Granted, the dragon would be probably trying to cycle charge quite a bit here, but I figured since we're going to be leaving them all in combat, you know, air units and everything, you better to just charge them down once and then, you know, see if we can take advantage of that. Plus, I mean, the charge bonus does last for quite a few seconds, and even if you don't directly land charge animation, the stats still do, affect your attack and weapon strength and everything. For those of you who are curious about what all the stats do, I do have a video, a pretty old video, how to read stats in Total War Warhammer 2. Definitely go check that out. I'll have it linked in the description down below. I am planning on remaking that into a full series where I have, each stat. I'm going to group a few together. Like, obviously melee attack and defense will be a single video, but I'm going to break them up into individual videos, so it's a little bit more digestible, but this fight is actually going to go on for quite some time. So we're going to fast forward here, as there's lots of healing on both sides. The Blood Dragon just about at his healing cap though, and we're going to each continuously pop the buffs anytime they come off of cooldown here, so this is quite a lengthy fight here, you can see, and Tyrion is going to be able to carry it with the Heart of Avalorn there at the end. But it took quite a while, and again, that dragon's going to be trying to cycle charge. That being said, if you time your Tempest just right when they do cycle charge, you can hit him right when they get back up in the air, and again, you're controlling their movements, dictating the pace of the battle, and doing a ton of damage to them as well. So, a lot of give and take in that particular situation, but I do think that Tyrion's going to be a better choice against the vampires than the Prince on the Star Dragon, at least in this particular patch. But anyway, let's move on to number 6 here. We've got Harkon. So I just wanted to see, Harkon's not really a melee character per se. He is a pretty decent melee character on the Terrorgeist, but I just wanted to see, with, excuse me, with his, his abilities and everything, if we could maybe interrupt some of the Blood Dragon stuff and debuff his Winds of Magic. Unfortunately, you can see he did pop almost all of his abilities before I was able to get the Power Siphon on him, and I actually didn't shoot him very much, so yeah, Harkon's going to get dumped on here. I'm going to try and run away so I can shoot him a little bit here, but yeah, Harkon's lack of magic definitely showing here. If he had Invocation and Dance Macabre, which he shouldn't, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that he should, but if he did, that probably would have gone the same, maybe slightly differently, but we'll see another vampire at the end, and we'll see if he can do the thing. But yeah, moving on, we've got good old Crocky G for the Lizardman. So Krokar, long been one of the kind of standard characters here. Whoops, this is actually the wrong test. Krokar is a little bit undercosted here, so we did a second test with him with a Skink Chief, since Skink Chiefs are relatively cheap. So let's go ahead and move to that one, because that first test was pretty one-sided. The Blood Dragon just wrecked Krokar, more or less. So since he was, like I said, about 400 points undercosted, I think, we decided to bring the Skink Chief with Harmonic Convergence and some other goodies. That Hand of the Gods did some pretty decent damage, nothing crazy, but he's going to use the Dragon Breath. Doesn't do much. Dragon Breath at that long range, just really, the spread really doesn't allow it to do much to single entities. At least that particular breath. But Krokar, again, going to try and dodge that animation. Didn't actually dodge very much, but these guys probably going to have the most cinematic fight of any that we're going to see today, because they have some matched combat animations that will actually proc quite a few times here. So, oh man, Krokar just taking a chunk out of him. And of course, we're going to be using that Harmonic Convergence on Krokar to buff up his stats here, help counter that Helm of Discord. We're also going to be using, very nice. Using that, what is it? Curse the Midnight Wind here, as well as the Cube of Darkness, and this is something that makes the Skink Priest almost a must-pick for me in this particular matchup. The Cube of Darkness, a greatly reduced power recharge rate for 18 seconds, only a 60-second cooldown, really, really excellent item against the vampire counts, of course, because they rely on their magic so much. No healing, unfortunately, for Krokar, because Cold-Blooded doesn't provide that healing. You used to be able to do, like, Harmonic Convergence and Cold-Blooded at the same time to kind of counteract that melee stat debuff. Fortunately now, I guess fortunately, it allows you to control Rampage, but it doesn't give you any healing, so a Rev Crystal's a little bit too expensive for me to justify really being around the same cost. I know it's not super scientific, and again, take these tests with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if I made a caveat at the beginning. It's kind of late to do so now, because I'm sure a lot of people have stopped watching, but take these tests with a grain of salt, maybe even a whole truckload of salt. No battles really ever happen in a vacuum, so, there's a lot of other factors. We'll go into, the winner's circle at the end and talk about the various leaders who were able to do well here against the Blood Dragon, and kind of talk about their faction as a whole and how I think that faction stacks up. because that also plays into how they'll ultimately do in a real-world situation. And for those of you guys trying to draw useful conclusions from multiplayer battles from these particular videos, I want them to have some actual value. And personally, I don't really see a lot of value in testing videos. I mean, certainly it can give you a good guide. You can see Crocky G goes down there, but actually brings the Blood Dragon quite low with that harmonic convergence support, which is very, very important. Again, he got wrecked without it. You guys just didn't see it. Yeah, very important to have that harmonic convergence, but just don't draw too many conclusions from this is what I'm trying to say. Use your own best judgment, and I'm going to give some context at the end to the winners, like I said, but I just want to get through these for the time being. Next up, we're going to try a little trick that I had theorized. I have used this a little bit in the last patch. I actually didn't show it off in very many videos, but you can get really cheeky and bring a Shadow Balefiend with Wulfric the Wanderer. I think he's maybe about 2,800. Probably not quite enough to justify the cost of Balefiend, but I just wanted to showcase this and actually test for myself how it would actually work. The idea is you pop Hunter of Champions and Enfeebling Foe on the Blood Dragon Lord, and he goes down to 0 melee defense. You can see, despite all of the buffs that he has on himself, the Mammoth just has a ton of HP, so he can take some hits. He can also dish out a ton of damage as well. You can see, though, unfortunately, because of the Helm of Discord, Wulfric doesn't have any self-buffing melee stat. Or I guess he does have Fight or Die, but that really doesn't last very long, only 18 seconds, and Helm of Discord lasts quite a bit longer, but once everything drops, even still, his combat stats just aren't there compared to the Blood Dragon Lord up on the Mammoth. I mean, certainly he has way more HP. That does count for quite a bit, but still, we're going to go ahead and fast forward slightly through this one as well, as, like I said, this meat bag here, Mammoths are just absolute meat bags, and that's really one of the best things they have going for them. In the Vampire Counts matchup, they have been popular in the past just because they don't have any archers to shoot at you, any ranged units, I should say. And one of the Mammoth's main drawbacks is that it has a massive hitbox for missiles. So, again, you don't really run into that too much. You can see Wulfric is actually about able to get the Blood Dragon to his healing cap here, and unfortunately the Hunter of Champions just has a really long cooldown. I've been popping that Enfeebling Foe pretty much anytime it comes off cooldown, but it's not quite enough to save Wulfric here. He does do quite well, all things considered. Certainly better than I was expecting, and for a character who can't heal, that's actually pretty decent. About on par with Archaon, just about. Well, maybe not quite, but yeah, not bad at all. Wulfric not quite winning out there, but now we're going to go for the semi-final test here. Good old Durthu. Now, Durthu also long been one of the best combat characters in the game. A lot of people underestimate him, and it's not... you don't typically think of the Wood Elves as a faction that brings heavy armor, heavy melee combat. Durthu certainly fulfills that, and he has a few things going for him here that will help him particularly. Charge defense against large is one of them. He will negate the charge bonus effects that the Blood Dragon's going to be popping off here, so that definitely helps. I also, in a real-world situation against the Vampire Counts, as things are right now, would definitely bring a Manticore summon. The Manticores, because their degeneration rate has been lowered significantly, he can bring the Manticore summon, and it's not that expensive for him to take. So as he is right now, I only have that spell, and plus the Sword of Daith. Going to debuff the armor here, allow the Manticore to do a bit more damage on that rear charge. Also inflicts a leadership penalty, and you might say, hey, this isn't fair, it's a 2-on-1, but again, Durthu can bring this himself, so, and as it is in the current patch, I would, and again, because he's so undercosted, he's probably only about 2,200 in his current form. I did bring a Branch Wraith as well for some healing, so yeah, we're going to see how this one goes. With the Manticore summon and Durthu slapping him, it's actually going to go pretty well for the Wood Elves here. And Wood Elves, I would say, might have one of the better matchups. I actually haven't tried the tree builds in a while. They, in the past, have been almost an auto win against the Vampire Counts. I hate to say that because I really hate saying that anything is an auto win, but I mean, the tree builds were just so hard for the Vampire Counts to take down because the Terrorgeist... all the trees have charge defense against large, and the Terrorgeist really don't do that much damage at the end of the day. Blood Knights, again, you have to get through the Wood Elf Infantry, which is all armor-piercing anti-large, and again, you're facing that charge defense that the trees have. Now the trees have armor-piercing, which is probably even worse for the vampires in that matchup, but I actually haven't tried it, so I'll get back to you on that. For the last test here, the final, I just wanted to go vampire versus vampire, the old best combat vampire versus the new best combat vampire, and see who wins. And yeah, the Helm of Discord, and again, all of these things stacking on top of each other for the Blood Dragon means that he's gonna just eat the Red Duke alive here. So yeah, you can already see how one-sided this is getting. The Red Duke, even with all of the same healing, just can't get the hits in. The Helm of Discord is really, I think, what makes this like actually overpowered, especially because of how cheap it is. We're going to fast forward through this so that we can have a look at the Blood Dragon once more in the menu and just talk about things in kind of an outro here. So sorry for the super, no editing, it seems like low quality effort, but honestly, I'm recording this as I'm about to leave for a holiday vacation, so apologies about that, guys. I don't really have time to go through and do a ton of editing right now, so this is what it is. I just kind of felt inspired to do this and wanted to have a quick discussion with you all, slap this up so that we could get some dialogue started. Personally, I'm of the opinion that the vampire counts are super overpowered right now, but we'll get into that a little bit more in some future videos. For now, let's finish out the Blood Dragon here. So again, the spell loadout I took with him was this. You could make an argument, yeah, I believe maybe he didn't have Raised Dead because it would have been super pertinent, except for maybe the ground engagements, but yeah. Raised Dead, there's an argument to be made there. With all these, he's up to 3,300. I mean, granted, super expensive. You can change up his mount loadout. Like, if you give him the Hell Steed, it gives him a lot more charge bonus. Doesn't have the best AP values in the world, but that charge bonus definitely makes up for a lot of that. And he is significantly cheaper as well. But just comparing the dragon here, super powerful character, and again, this Helm of Discord is only 106 points, which seems a little bit ridiculous. The Wood Elves Melee Glade Lord also was given access to the Helm of Discord, but for some reason his is 148, so I'm not really sure if this is a bug, the fact that the Helm of Discord is in fact cheaper for the Blood Dragon than it is for the Wood Elf Melee Glade Lord, but I do think that they either need to remove the Helm of Discord altogether from this guy because it just seems kind of OP on him, or else greatly increase its cost, or maybe give it like a max 1 usage or something, because as it is right now, this I think is really what makes this guy overpowered, and he makes the Red Duke looked like a chump, and the Red Duke was already one of the best combat characters in the game, so what does that tell you about the Blood Dragon, And granted, what does that tell you about Karl Franz, Durthu, and Tyrion? So let's quickly just touch on the Winner's Circle here, and like I said, talk about their factions as a whole and how they're going to do against the vampires. The Empire... Now, this is the issue with taking tests and trying to draw conclusions from them. Karl Franz is going to get wrecked in the air against the vampires because he's alone. I mean, maybe you could try and bring an Amber Wizard just with no spells, but he's also just going to get wrecked, and you really going to want to dedicate your healing to Karl Franz himself. So, I mean, you could do something cheeky like this, but that is going to deprive you of your Warrior Priest slot as well, which could potentially be very handy in helping to support an engagement, but I mean, something like this is probably about as good as you're going to get to go in the air, and it's not the best, I would say. This Amber Wizard is okay. He's not the best combat character in the world, does have a lot of weapon strength, but, I mean, you're going to probably be going up against, if your opponent goes heavy in the air, you're going to be going up against, like, Blood Dragon on a dragon, potentially maybe even a couple Terrorgeists, bats, other flying units, maybe vampiresses on Hellsteeds, pretty popular pick right now as well. So yeah, you're going to get wrecked in the air. You just don't have the support. Your ranged units, a lot of your ranged units will just get shut down easily. So Karl Franz, although it's impressive that he can actually beat the Blood Dragon, certainly I don't know that you would ever really want to take him in this particular situation. As to how the Empire is supposed to go about fighting the vampires right now, we'll get back to you on that when I figure out some decent builds, but it's really not great right now. The High Elves, Tyrion certainly has a pretty good chance here, and with the High Elves have long been kind of the bane of the Vampire Counts, one of the factions with a pretty decent matchup against them. You've got the Apotheosis, you know, you can take Arcane and Forging and Tempest with a High Mage. Something like this I think is actually going to be pretty hard for them to deal with. I mean, you certainly do have some other really good defensive units on the ground. You know, you can take some Phoenix Guard, and there's not a lot on the Vampire Counts roster that can deal with Phoenix Guard and melee, and they don't have any ranged units, so really that leaves them with magic or like breath attacks, which, I mean, they can bring those and use them to good effect, certainly against the Phoenix Guard, but you can punish them somewhat for going up in the air if you really want to try and contest the air. I don't know how well this works, so take this with a grain of salt, but you could try and go with the Prince on the Star Dragon. I would honestly probably just cheap him out, because he's already extremely expensive. And then again, High Mage, same spell loadout, except this time we can try and keep him up in the air so we get more value out of that Tempest. And then maybe you take, you know, a Frostheart Phoenix for the debuff here, that -9 melee attack, -10% armor piercing. Maybe you take another Star Dragon. It's hard to say. I really just, again, the High Elves trying to contest in the air, going to be pretty rough. I think you're better off taking Tyrion because he's so much cheaper and just an absolute powerhouse. Take him on the ground. That Sunfang will let you clear through some chaff as well, and just try and control through Tempest and so on. Wood Elves, I think, out of the three that we saw here, have the best chance. I haven't, again, tried this, but just from an analysis standpoint, we take that transformation of Kadon, we cut down everything else. There is an argument to be made for Flock of Doom, certainly, but I'm going to just try and make him as cheap as possible. We do want that Lamentation. Foe Seeker, I mean, the Vigor's nice, but we're going to leave that at home. We'll also take Sword of Daith, and yeah, Branch Wraith, and then go with the full-on, you know, tree-type build. Would be, I think, pretty effective. I might also consider Penumbral Pendulum here, but just to try and go as wide as possible, we might do something like this, and then get another Tree Man. We'll definitely need some Elven Infantry to support. These War Dancers are pretty decent. We'll take these guys as well. Something like this might not be too bad. It's kind of lacking some mobile units, honestly, for my taste, so I might cut one of these guys and take a Sister of Thorn to just run around and be annoying. Oh, we're a little bit overcosted, so I might try and find something else to cut. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Lamentation of Despair, so I might cut that one. But, yeah, I think something like this might be pretty tough for the Vampire Counts to deal with. Again, I haven't actually tried yet in this patch. I've had some success with similar builds in previous patches, but with the new Bloodline Lords, I haven't tried this. So, based on what we saw there, just because Durthu was able to put a beating on the Blood Dragon so convincingly there, just, you know, based on my gut feeling, I would say this is probably going to work pretty well. But I'll let you guys know when I get a chance to try it out in the future. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this quick testing video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.